Yo, what is going on, guys? Toxico Cereal here, and welcome back to another Brawl Stars video. Today, we're going to be doing a video that I didn't think I was going to have to do, mainly because I didn't think it was going to get implemented, but we're going to be ranking the gadgets based on how long they should take for each cooldown. If you guys are unaware of what I'm talking about, most recently, if you guys are very unaware, Brawl Stars confirmed that they are going to be reworking gadgets so that they have infinite uses. However, the stronger the gadget, the higher the cooldown. And we're going to be going through every single gadget on each brawler. And I'm going to be predicting on how long I think, or my suggestion anyway, on how long it should be on a cooldown. So, we're going to go by rarity, starting off with Shelly, going all the way down to legendaries to Kenji. And yes, Ali is here if you are wondering. And I'm excited because this is going to be a huge change in the meta, because bad gadgets are going to be very, like, what's the word I'm looking for? More compatible with the better gadget, because the better gadget will have a longer cooldown, and then the worst gadget will have a very short cooldown. So, the gadget ranges are from 7 seconds at the absolute lowest, and 30 seconds at the absolute highest. So, I'm going to be going through every single gadget and what I suggest should be. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with Shelly. Shelly has two gadgets. Well, every brawler has two gadgets. Fast forward is not a great gadget. So, in my opinion, this should be like 10 seconds, like at least. Or at most, 10 seconds. So, I think Shelly should be able to dash relatively a lot during the game. So, I'm going to predict this one to be about 9 seconds. And then for Clay Pigeons, it's definitely the better gadget right now. I would say about 22 seconds. Like, this is a really strong gadget. And it turns Shelly into a sharpshooter. So, it's going to be on the longer side, that's for sure. Next up, we have Nita's gadgets. And Nita has two really good gadgets. They're both pretty strong. So, I'd expect them to have both pretty much the same cooldown, to be honest. Bear Paws and Phofer, I think, are going to be 20 both. Like, I don't think they're completely broken gadgets, but they're very good. So, I'm going to predict them to be on the longer side. So, I'm saying both for 20. Next up, we've got Colt. And Colt also has two pretty good gadgets, in my opinion. They're not, like, broken. But you gotta be careful, especially with a gadget like Silver Bullet. It's designed to open up the map. And if you have these very often, it's just going to be a field day for long-range brawlers. And those comps are going to be strong. So for Speed Loader, I would say about every 18 seconds. Because if you could spam this gadget, you're going to have infinite ammo. And Colt already has a pretty quick reload speed. So it'll be a little toxic. And for Silver Bullet, I would say like 27 seconds. If you have more than 4 of these a game, you're going to open up the whole map super fast. And that's just not, like, that's not smart. Because then you're going to have a meta that literally is purely designed on Colt opening up the map for long-range brawlers like Piper, Bee, Nani, etc. Just to have a field day. Like, that's not fair. So there has to be a pretty long cooldown, especially on a gadget like that. Next up, we've got Bull. And Bull also has two pretty good gadgets. I would say majority of the time you have to use Stomper. So T-Bone Injector, I would say every like 15 seconds. You can't be spamming healing. So I think that wouldn't be too bad. And then for Stomper, probably every 15 as well. Maybe 20. I'm expecting a Bull rework pretty soon. So I wouldn't be surprised if this gadget went away. So I would take 20 for Stomper, 15 for T-Bone. Next up, we've got Brock. Brock has two pretty good gadgets as well. In terms of which is going to be longer, I think Rocket Fuel, kind of for the same reason as Colt. You don't want it to be opening up the map. So probably about 20 to 25 seconds. I would say 25 seconds maximum for Rocket Fuel. And then for Rocket Laces, I would say about every 18 seconds. It is a getaway gadget, and you should not be able to spam them relentlessly. Next up, we've got El Primo. El Primo has two gadgets that are kind of just mid. They're not like completely broken, but for the same reason as Colt and Brock, Asteroid Belt probably should have a longer cooldown. Not as long as the Colt and Brock's, but I would say about every 20 seconds. And for Simplex Supplement, I would say more or less the same, because this gadget hard counters his fellow tanks, and Primo is an anti-tank counter to his tank counters, or to his tanks. That's what I should say. Right. Next up, we've got Barley, and Barley has two really good gadgets as well. Sticky Syrup Mixer is good against aggro, so Barley has to have weaknesses. So I would say about every 16 seconds for a cooldown. And then for Herbal Tonic, if it was just Barley that was healing, I would say maybe like every 15. But it heals his whole team, and that's very powerful. So I would say about every 24 seconds. Next up, we've got Poco. And Poco is an interesting one because he's got two gadgets that are very team-based, reliant. So we've got Tuning Fork, which I would give it about every 25 seconds because if it had a very quick cooldown, it would be so toxic in Poco Double Tank. You wouldn't be able to counter. In Protective Tunes, I would probably give it also a very long cooldown, probably like every 22 seconds because if you have this gadget a lot, you're just going to completely hard counter brawlers like Crow, Lou, and brawlers because this gadget is super, it's super like comp based. For example, like if the enemy team drafts a Lou, a Crow, a brawler with a stun, and you have this gadget every 10 seconds, that's broken because it gives you 4 seconds of immunity. So you're basically going to hard counter those brawlers. So it has to have a long cooldown for that reason. Next up, we've got Rosa. And Rosa has two gadgets that are, I don't know like a word, but they have to have a decent cooldown because Rosa's just going to eat the whole lobby with quick gadgets. So I would say for Grow Light, maybe every 25 seconds because you're going to have a lot of bushes down. And the more bushes down, the better Rosa's going to thrive. And same thing with unfriendly bushes. The more slows, the easier Rosa's going to close the gap. So probably 25 seconds on both. That might seem harsh, but she's got two really good gadgets. Next up, we've got Jessie. Jessie has two pretty decent gadgets. Obviously, Recoil Spring is only good in Heist. Spark Plug is good everywhere else. But the slow on Spark Plug is pretty brutal. However, you have to have Jessie's turret. So I would give it about every 18 seconds. And for Recoil Spring, probably a little bit longer because you could just spam it in Heist, which is a little bit unfair. So I would probably give it about 20 seconds. I don't know. That's probably controversial. Next up, we've got Dynamite, and obviously Fidget Spinner is one of the worst gadgets in the game. I would give this one like 8 seconds. Spam it so that you can get a lot of pressure. And then for Satchel Charge, make it the max 30 seconds. I don't care what the hell you tell me. This gadget is way too toxic. It's a free kill if you land it, so make it the full 30 seconds. And it'll actually be a balance between the gadgets. Next up, we've got Tick. Mind Mania, I would like spam on Mind Mania because this gadget is definitely the worst one. So I would like every 10 seconds. And then for Last Draw, this gadget's so good, I would make it like 25 seconds. It gives Tick so much protection, and it literally makes him hard to counter, especially if you can just spam it. 8-Bit is got two gadgets. He's going to either teleport a lot or he's going to burst a bunch of shots. So extra credits is a little bit strong in a Heist, but overall it's like impossible to clip this fully. So in terms of cheat cartridge, I would make it like every 20 seconds. You should not be able to teleport to your turn as many times as you want, especially if you have a low cooldown. So make this one a longer one for sure. And then for extra credits, I would say every like 12 seconds. Like, let's see some spam on 8-Bit because 8-Bit's shots are, since he's slow, he should have a bit of an impact. He's so slow. Next up, we've got Gadget, Rico, Multi-Ball Launcher. Make it the full 30 seconds. Do we really need to talk about it? This gadget is so brain dead. Rico needs to have a little bit of counterplay, and with his gadget, he does not have counterplay. And then for Bouncy Castle, it's a healing gadget that provides a lot of healing, so the lower, the more toxic it's going to be. So I would say about 23 seconds is a fair spot for it. Next up, we've got Daryl, who has awful gadgets. Both of them are terrible. So in my opinion, they both should be like 8 seconds. Maybe both even 7. They are both so bad. Like, Daryl right now is relying on a super because he has the 2 roles. Next up, we've got Penny. In terms of her gadgets, Salty Barrel is definitely the better one. It counters her aggressive brawlers. So probably about 25 seconds, I would say, for Salty Barrel. And then for Trusty Spyglass, let's see the turret spam go out. I want to make this one like 10 seconds because this will be really good. Because this gadget, like most of the time, Penny's turret misses. But with the more cannonballs out there, the better the map control. So Trusty Spyglass every 10 seconds, it could be very good. Next up, we have Carl. And Carl has 2 pretty good gadgets. I feel like he's dependent on his gadgets. Like, Heat Ejector does a lot of damage. And also, Flying Hook is pretty much essential to majority of the Carl player's base kit. So I would say both of them, about 15 seconds, I think, are good. Probably Heat Ejector a little bit less, or Flying Hook a little bit longer, but they should be pretty close, because they're both pretty good. Next up, you've got Jackie, and Jackie has Pneumatic Booster, which is so good, I would say about every 25 seconds, because this gadget is basically needed on Jackie's kit. If you are able to spam this gadget, she's just going to close the gap on you. And then rebuild, just make it every 7 seconds. Because if you're able to rebuild the whole map, especially in a wall or a wall break composition, I could see this gadget being so good, but you have to make it the minimum time, which is 7 seconds. And then finally, for super rares, we've got Gus. Cookie Popper, I would probably make it like almost a full 30 seconds. Probably like 27 seconds. Like, I feel like 30 seconds is a little bit overkill because Gus really needs this gadget. But I think it needs to be a long time for sure. And in terms of Soul Switcher, probably make it the minimum time, 7 seconds, because this gadget's so bad and it's never used. And maybe if you have a bunch of spirits on the ground, you can have combination with Health Bonanza, because right now, it's literally just DPS on Gus. Cookie Popper and Spirit Animal is the meta for Gus. Moving on to Epic Brawlers, we've got Bo. Bo's gadgets are both awful. Super Totem, probably every 13 seconds, I would say. Sure, you can use it to tank a shot, but you really almost never use it for the super. And then Tripwire, probably like every 10 seconds, because this gadget almost never hits, and maybe you can trip up an enemy. It also is good for opening up the map, so I could see a little bit of potential with it. Next up, we've got Ems. In terms of her gadgets, Friend Zoner, probably every 15 seconds. That knockback is vital for her, and without it, she gets countered way too easily. And then Acid Spray, I guess if you have a longer range comp and you want to snipe people through walls, make it the minimum duration. I could see a potential use out of it, but majority of the time you have to have Friend Zoner. So, next up we've got Stu. Stu has 2 really good gadgets, so you got to be careful here. In terms of Speed Zone, I would probably make it the max 30 seconds, just because if you get this gadget in a really good spot, it can be very overwhelming, especially for the enemy team with the speed. And then Breakthrough, probably about every 22 seconds, I would say, because of the same reasons as Brock and Colt's gadgets, especially if you're trying to open up the map. Also, you can play super aggressive with this gadget, and even with the Hypercharge too. It could be very strong. Next up we have Piper, and I honestly would like to see both of them be almost the max duration. They're both so good, especially if you're playing on a specific game mode. If you're going against a bunch of aggressive brawlers, Auto Aimer just shuts them down. Homemade Recipe just counters the heck out of longer range brawlers, especially in Bounty and Knockout. So I would like to see both of them, honestly, 30 seconds. They're both so good. Maybe Auto Aimer a little bit less, but Homemade Recipe has to be max, because if you spam this gadget, Piper's going to have a field day. Next up, we've got Pam, and both of her gadgets are okay. Scrap Sucker is definitely the better one by a long shot. So, in terms of Pulse Modulator, probably every 20 seconds maximum, because you don't want to spam it, because healing could be a little bit overwhelming, especially for low DPS brawlers. And then Scrap Sucker, probably every 25 seconds maximum. I would say like 22 is a sweet spot, because any aggressive brawler just gets screwed over by the gadget. But Pam isn't very meta right now, so honestly, you could make it less for both. Next up, we've got Frank. Frank has 2 pretty good gadgets as well. They're both kind of composition-based. For the same reason as Poco, active noise canceling should probably be about 25 seconds maximum. I wouldn't give it the full duration, but if you're able to spam this gadget, Frank's counter usually is like knockback slows. You're just going to be uncounterable, and then irresistible attraction. But I would say about every 18 seconds feels pretty good. Like, this gadget isn't that strong, but the extra damage does make a big factor, especially when he's low HP. He can be very annoying to deal with. Next up, we've got BB, and BB has Vitamin Booster, which this one should be about every 20-25 seconds. The healing is just too good. And then for extra sticky, just make it 7 seconds. This gadget sucks anyways. Even if you make it the minimum duration, I don't think this gadget will ever be meta, because it also debuffs the Hypercharge. So, next up we have B. Honey Molasses, I would say about every 18 to 20 seconds, just because it is a slow and it also is a spawner. And spawners should take a while, but also Rattled Hive, if you spam it, because majority of the meta people, or majority of the pros, I would say, spam the hell out of this gadget. So I would make it like every 25 seconds, because the spam on this gadget could be very toxic, because this gadget has been so broken in the past. Next up, we have my favorite brawler, Nani. And in terms of her gadgets are both pretty good. I would say Warp in Time. Really? They changed the name? I didn't even know. It used to be called Warp Blast, but Warp in Time, I actually love the name. Holy cow. When did they make that change? I'm so curious, because I never knew that. Warp in Time, I would probably make it about every 25 seconds, just because Nani doesn't get super too often, but a bunch of TPs, especially in a game mode like Heist, could be very broken. And then Return to Sender should also be a pretty long time. I would like it to be as short as possible as a Nani main, But this gadget is really toxic, especially against brawlers like Piper and B. Like, it should probably be almost the max duration. It should probably be about 28 seconds, because if you spam this gadget, you're literally just going to destroy brawlers like Piper. You're going to be uncounterable with those single-shot brawlers, so it has to be a long duration. Next up, we've got Edgar, and in terms of his gadgets, Let's Fly should probably be almost the max duration, probably about every 25 seconds, I would say, because Edgar really needs this gadget in Hardcore. Honestly, I would probably make it like 10 seconds. If you make it 7 seconds, Edgar might be almost unkillable because you can just keep spamming this gadget. But every 10 seconds, it gives Edgar a shield, and Edgar can at least push up the map and get a bunch of kills. So I actually could see potential with that. Next up, we've got Griff. Piggy Bank, I'd have to make it the max duration. This gadget is solely to open up the wall, like Colt and Brock's gadget, but this one definitely provides the most value. And then in terms of this other gadget, it should be the minimum duration. This gadget has no use, so more spam, I guess. So make it 7 seconds. Next up, we've got Grom. Grom has 2 decent gadgets in terms of Watchtower. I would make it probably 23 seconds, I would say. Nothing too long, but nothing short, because this gadget is very good on grassy maps because it gives a lot of range. And then Radio Check, probably about every 20 seconds, I would say. It gives Grom a little bit more DPS, and he kind of needs it because he's been struggling in the meta for a long time now. Next up, we've got Bonnie. In terms of Sugar Rush, probably 25 seconds, maybe even the full duration. This gadget is really strong, and it definitely is needed on Bonnie. And then for Crash Test, the minimum 7 seconds. This gadget sucks. No further discussion needed. Next up, we've got Gale. Spring Ejector. I don't know. The problem with Spring Ejector is you only really need 1. So I guess make it the minimum duration, because maybe we could see some cheesy plays. I don't really know what to do about Spring Ejector. And then Twister, probably 25 seconds. This gadget is absolutely brutal on choke points, and it could, the more you have it, the more choke points you're going to create, and the more toxic it's going to be. Next up, you've got Colette. In terms of this gadget probably needs the minimum duration, maybe a little bit longer. I would say 10 seconds, because it gives Colette extra damage. And then Gotcha, full duration, 100%, 30 seconds. This gadget is so broken. I don't know how it hasn't been nerfed yet. And if they don't plan on nerfing it, it has to be 30 seconds. It is so good on Colette, it's probably the main reason Colette's meta. Next up, you've got Belle. In terms of her gadgets, Nest Egg, I would say about every 25 seconds. This gadget is very strong because it has the slow, and anybody that's hit by this gadget is pretty much guaranteed to die. And then Reverse Polarity, I want to see some trick shots with Belle. So I want to make this gadget almost the minimum. So I would say about 9 seconds. I think 7 seconds would be a little bit too brutal, but I would like to see this gadget pretty low, because the amount of plays you can get with this gadget is really good if you're able to spam it. Next up, we've got Ash. Ash is an interesting one because he's got 2 okay gadgets. Chill Pill, it gives a lot of healing, but I don't think it's that brutal of a gadget because you lose your rage. So I would say about every 15 seconds is pretty good because it gives you healing. And then Rotten Banana is kind of just an gadget. So I would also give this one like every 12 seconds, because maybe if you're able to make plays with it, you can actually get value, but it's kind of a risky gadget to use. Next up, you've got Lola. She's got 2 gadgets as well. Freeze Frame, I would say about every 20 seconds, because it does give a decent amount of shielding, which is really good for tankiness. And then for Stunt Double, I feel like it has potential because it actually does give a decent amount of HP. It kind of reminds me of Larry and Laurie's gadget. So I would probably make this one every 14 seconds, because if you're able to spam it, I have the feeling that Lola and her ego is just never going to die, because the healing is pretty substantial, so I would keep it at that. Next up, we've got Sam. Next, for his gadgets, I don't even know why I'm using this build. Magnetic Field, probably every 20-25 seconds maximum, because this gadget almost guarantees a kill, and you can pretty much use it whenever the heck you want. And then for this gadget, probably every 7 seconds. I don't see a point in using this gadget anyways. It sucks. So, next up, we've got Mandy. And Mandy's got 2 decent gadgets, so I think majority of the time people use Cookie Crumbs. Caramelize, I would probably say every 18 seconds, because Mandy's biggest counter is aggression, and she just doesn't have the DPS to keep up with it. So at least if she has some slow, she can defend herself. And the slow is really hard to hit from max range. Cookie Crumbs, probably every 22 seconds. Because the ability to pierce through environment is a bit strong. And if you're able to do it more constantly, it's going to allow you to get more kills. Which I think is a little too overpowered. So probably about that. Next up we've got Maisie. Disengage probably about every 25 seconds. Because this gadget combines with her super very well, so it's kind of a needed gadget. So if you have this gadget less, maybe we'll start to see Maisie shift in the way she's used. Finish them probably every 10 seconds, even less probably. This gadget's never used because it's just not needed. I don't see a point in this gadget, so every 10 seconds, maybe even less. If you want to go 7 seconds, go ahead. Next up, you've got Hank. Water balloons probably every 12 seconds. I don't really see anybody use this gadget because I don't think it's needed on Hank. And then for Barricade, probably every 25 seconds. A shield is very strong on Hank, and especially as him being a tank. If he has more shields, he's going to be a lot harder to kill, and he actually isn't like the worst brawler in the meta. I feel like he has some bit of use. Next up, we have Pearl Overcooked. Probably like almost the max duration, like 28 seconds. This gadget is so good because it just completely deletes enemies, especially with that burning. And then Made with Love, 7 seconds. Like, this gadget sucks. It needs a rework, but if they don't want to rework it, I guess just make it every 7 seconds. Maybe it's good. I don't really see a point in that gadget. Next up we got Larry and Laurie. Order swap every 7 seconds, even though this gadget is probably forever going to be terrible because of the nerfs they gave to Laurie with the damage. And then for order fall back, probably the max duration, to be honest, because this gadget is so good. It literally gives them healing and it swaps their positions. Maybe not the max duration, but 25 seconds at least. And next up we got Angelo. Stinging Flight, probably every 22 seconds because Angelo is really hard to counter. And this gadget just helps them more. Same thing with Master Fletcher. 4,000 damage through a wall is crazy, so probably like 25 seconds here. He's got 2 really good gadgets. Next up, we've got Barry. Friendship is great, probably every 25 seconds because it gives healing, and also it knocks back enemies, which Barry's biggest counter definitely is aggression, and then in terms of healthy additives, probably like every 12 seconds. This gadget's really only good in Heist, and Barry isn't the greatest. Like, he's okay in Heist, but he can't defend. So maybe if he gets a little more control, I guess that'll work. Next up, we have Shade. Long Arms, probably every 20 seconds, just because this gadget is very strong, and it gives him extra range. But Shade kind of needs his gadgets, and then this gadget I've never seen anybody use, so probably every 7 seconds. Like, maybe that'll be a little bit too toxic, but I've never seen this gadget used one time. Like, I don't know. And then lastly, in the epics, we have Meeple. And Meeple's gadgets are actually so broken, in my opinion. Both of them. Like, it's not even funny, because I pushed Meeple to 1,000 trophies in Showdown, and this gadget, Rage Quit, is the reason why. But in terms of Mansions of Meeple, it's a Sprout Wall, and it's so cheesy if you know how to use it, especially with his super. You can make some game-changing plays, so probably like every 25 seconds. And then this gadget is so broken, in my opinion. The stun and the knockback, especially with the range it has, is absolutely insane. So at least 25 seconds for this one as well. Next up, we've got Mortis. And Mortis really needs his gadgets. I would say Combo Spinner, make it the minimum 7 seconds, just because it doesn't give supercharge, so I think it would benefit. And the Survival Shovel, I would say every like 15 seconds is fair and valid. Mortis really needs his gadgets. Right now he's kind of carried by his hypercharge, and if he's got more super, he can at least get his hypercharge more often. Next up we've got Terra. I would give Psychic Enhancer the minimum, almost the minimum, maybe not 7 seconds, because especially on a map like Snake Prairie, you're going to be able to see the map the whole time. So probably like 12 seconds is better. And then Support from Beyond should be like 25 seconds. This gadget is so good. It pretty much counters the single shot. It counters single shot brawlers, and it can do the job of Psychic Enhancer, just not as well. So I would make it 25 seconds. Next up we have Jean. Jean's gadgets aren't like the greatest. I would say Lab Blowout probably every like 16 seconds. At least helps him against aggression, which Jean definitely struggles against. Vengeful Spirit's probably every 16 seconds as well. I don't find this gadget too annoying. It's pretty good on the longer range maps, but it doesn't deal a lot of damage. So either or is fine. Next up we got Max. Phase Shifter, probably every 20 seconds. The shield, or the invulnerability shield, is very strong, and if you know how to use it, which 99.9% of the Max players do, because Max is a very high skill cap brawler, and Max is a very popular brawler, so the people that play Max know what they're doing. And then for Sneaky Sneakers, probably every 10 seconds. This gadget sucks. Every 7 seconds, I think, could be a little bit too cheesy, but give this gadget some hype, so it's a fairly bad gadget. Next up, we have Mr. P. Mr. P's gadgets you got to be careful of, because Mr. P has been broken in the past, especially with portal reinforcements. Service Bell, I would say like every 15 seconds, upgrade that porter, and then portal reinforcements probably every like 18 seconds. The more, if you're able to spam this gadget as much as possible, I could see it being way too toxic, so we got to be careful with that. Next up, we've got Sprout. Sprout has two like okay gadgets. I would say Garden Mulcher probably every 20 seconds. The healing is decent with it, but you got to keep in mind it does get rid of a bush, so I don't want to make it the full duration. And then for Transplant, every 20 seconds as well, honestly. Probably a little bit longer for Transplant, just because you can spam supers pretty much all the time, and it does go okay with this Hypercharge, even though his Hypercharge sucks. Next up, we have Byron. In terms of his gadget, Shot in the Arm, probably like every 20 seconds as well. It gives a lot of healing, but it does use one of his ammo. And then Booster Shots, probably like every 25 seconds. It helps with the supercharge rate. It's good healing for his teammates. It's good damage towards the enemy. It's just a better gadget overall. Next up, we have Squeak. Wind Up, I would probably make like every 10 seconds. I don't think his gadget's that great. You can get some good plays by sniping people across the map, especially with that extra damage. And then Residue, 100% has to be 30 seconds. This gadget would be way too toxic if you were able to spam it, because this gadget is already, it's kind of needed on Squeak, so it has to be the full duration, because it's kind of like Gale's gadget in a way, but this gadget's definitely stronger. Next up, we have Lou's gadgets. Ice Block, I would say like every 15 seconds, I would say. This gadget isn't too good, but there is some use case to it because it gives you invulnerability. And then Cryosurf, probably like every 25 seconds at most. I don't think it should have max duration, but freezing people half a super on Lou's super literally makes it easier to kill them, because with the hypothermia star power, and they're probably just going to get frozen anyways, so this gadget has to have a bit of delay to it. Next up, we've got Ruffs. His gadgets are alright. I would say Take Cover. Against single shot brawlers could be a little toxic if you're able to spam it. So I would say about every 19 seconds is a decent spot. And then for Air Support, probably a little bit longer, because if you can spam this gadget, you're going to have a lot of map control. So every 22 seconds I think is pretty good. Next up, we've got Buzz's gadgets. In terms of Reserve Buoy, probably every 25 seconds, I would say. The reason is it pairs. It's kind of needed on Buzz, because it gives you a little bit of map mobility, and also it's really good with a hypercharge. And then for X-Ray Shades, 24 seconds. The reason being it lasts for 12 seconds, so make it that it recharges after the 12 seconds. Now, technically, I know it doesn't start the cooldown until after the gadget expires, but I feel like that's going to be changed. So I think because of that, just make it 24 seconds. You get 12 seconds of viewing time and then 12 seconds of non-viewing time. Maybe you could nerf that, but I don't think this gadget provides a ton of value, because this gadget is just objectively better. Next up, we've got Fang. Both of his gadgets are pretty good. I would say Corn Fu, because of that area control, probably the longer, the better, and the safer. So 20 seconds I think is okay. And then for Roundhouse Kick, I would make this one actually lower than Corn Fu, just because it does... Fang is, I don't know, he's not that great in the meta, and this gadget it's okay. It only gives a half-second stun, so I would make it like every 16 seconds. I don't really know. Next up, we got Eve. Gotta Go. A little longer is probably safer, because Eve usually gets countered by aggressive brawlers because she doesn't have the DPS or the burst potential. But this gadget at least helps her go away, and she can go over water. So I would say like every 22 seconds, and then Mother Love, minimum duration. This gadget's terrible. Maybe there's a little bit of use case if you make it every 7 seconds, but you have to waste the E super. I'm just waiting for a rework on that gadget, because that gadget sucks. Next up, we got Janet. Drop the base, probably like, honestly, 25 seconds, maybe even the max duration. A huge range to scout a lot of the grass, or just keep the enemy from healing up. This gadget has such a huge range that you should not be able to spam it. So I would honestly give it the max duration, because it's just, I think it would be a little too toxic. And then backstage pass, I would probably give it like every 10 seconds. This gadget is good against like throwers, because you can jump over a wall and play a little bit aggressive. So the shorter, I could see this gadget being very good. Next up, we've got Otis's gadget, Dormant Star, make it the minimum time. I've seen YouTubers make this gadget work, but for the majority of the players, it just doesn't. So make it the minimum duration. And then Fat Splatter, every 20 seconds, I think is okay. This gadget shouldn't be able to be spammed, because it helps Otis win lane almost all the time. So you got to be a little careful with that. Next up, we got Buster. The utility belt, it's good because it helps heal up enemies, especially if you're in like a good team base. But for the majority of the time, slow-mo replay is definitely better. So I would give this gadget like every 18 seconds, and then slow-mo replay probably like every 28 seconds. This gadget is so good on Buster. Basically guarantees a kill. Next up, you've got Gray. Walking Cane, probably the max duration, if I'm being honest. This gadget is so good, and it's one of the main reasons Gray is very powerful in the meta, is because this gadget almost confirms a kill every time. Grand Piano, I would say like every 20 seconds. Now, if it was its old Grand Piano, obviously it'd be max duration, but the area of effect isn't that big anymore. But you got to be careful, because you got to keep in mind brawlers like Colt and Brock's gadgets. Grand Piano kind of gives the same effect as it, so I would definitely give it at least 20 seconds. Next up, we've got RT, out of line, max duration, no question here. It's a free super. And then hacks, probably like 25 seconds, because in brawl or game modes like Bounty and Knockout, this gadget is a cheat code to confirming kills so easily. So I would make it a pretty long duration as well. Next up, we have Willow. Willow has two just gadgets, I guess. This gadget gives her a little bit of extra DPS and makes her damage instantly. So I would every 12 seconds, I think. And then Dive, kind of the same thing as Lou's gadget, gives her 2 seconds of untargetableness, I guess, because it's not invulnerability since she's underneath. But technically she's invulnerable, so I guess either way it doesn't matter. I would give it like every 16 seconds. Next up, we've got Doug. Double Sausage, every like 15 seconds. It doesn't give that much healing, and Doug kind of doesn't have that much healing as is. And then Extra Mustard like every 20 seconds. This gadget is better, and it deals a lot of damage, so you got to be careful. Next up, we've got Chuck. Chuck's gadgets are kind of just nobody really cares. Rerouting, I would say like every 15 seconds. If you mess up a pull, at least you can get your super back, and it is better. It's like decent in heist. And then Ghost Train, I could see a lot of plays with this, so I would just make both every 15 seconds. Both of his gadgets are kind of just who cares. Next up, we've got Charlie. Spiders, I absolutely despise, even though it's been nerfed to oblivion. Every 25 seconds, probably. You should not be able to spam this gadget out of your mind. And then for personal space, underrated gadget, I would say like every 16 seconds. I feel like it could be a little bit too cheesy if you make it really short, but I don't really know. Most of the people use spiders. Next up, we've got Miko. Clipping Scream, probably like every 20 seconds. This gadget is definitely the better one. It gives damage and it also slows the enemy. Presto, if I'm being honest, make it the minimum duration. All it does is it gives them a little bit of extra range, so maybe you can have a little bit more mobility and be a little bit more aggressive majority of the time. Next up, we have Melody. Perfect Pitch, make it the minimum duration. This gadget is never used, and it's mainly because Interlude is so good. And Interlude probably should have the maximum duration because the shield is so good, especially when you pair it with the Hypercharge. It's so good. Next up, we've got Lily. Vanish. Really? Max duration. No questions asked. This is the best gadget in the game by far. Repot, I can see a good use case for it, but just because of how broken Vanish is, make this one the minimum duration, because it's literally the only competition against Vanish. Next up, we've got Clancy. Snappy Shooting, I would say about every 20, maybe even 25 seconds at maximum between that range, because this gadget gives Clancy double tokens, and Clancy isn't very good in the meta right now, but this gadget allows him to get to level 3 a lot quicker. And then Tactical Retreat. Like, this gadget, probably, like, every 18 seconds, it gives them an extra ammo. And, like, this gadget's okay because it helps Clancy close the gap. But, I don't know. We'll see. For Mo, Dodgy Digging, probably, like, every 20 seconds. Because this gadget helps with the supercharge rate, and Mo sucks in the meta right now. But this gadget definitely is helping him a lot. And then I really have never seen many people use this gadget. So honestly, make it like every 7 seconds, just because like you're really not going to be able to use this gadget unless you're in super form anyways. So I don't really think it matters. Next up we have Juju. This gadget, probably like every 18 seconds. I'd like to see some use case for this gadget. Like, it has potential, but this gadget just does everything. So I would like to see this one be able to be used more. So maybe, like I said 18, maybe make it 15. Because this gadget has potential to be toxic because it literally combines all three effects. But this gadget absolutely make it the max duration. The fact that you can go invisible, you can go fast, or you can get a shield with a click of a freaking green button. No, I hate that. Make it the max duration. And then lastly, we have Ollie. Ollie's a brand new brawler, so I don't really know. I've been using the Regulate gadget a little bit more than All Eyes on Me. The freaking heck, and the brain rot with the Z. I would probably just make both gadgets 15 seconds, to be honest. I don't really know. Moving on to Legendary Brawlers, starting off with Spike. Popping Pincushion is kind of like Multi-Ball Launcher in a way, but it doesn't pierce. So it is really good against aggression, and then also really good in the high safe. But for the majority of the time, this gadget is just not the greatest. So I would make it like every 13 seconds. And then for Plant Life, like every 25 seconds at max. Like every 22 seconds seems like a good spot. Because this gadget gives Spike like a taking his shield. And it also heals Spike up. So you can't make this gadget spammable. Next up we've got Crow. Defense booster, honestly, like every 10 seconds. Because Crow is so squishy. And if you have this gadget more, maybe you can be a little bit more aggressive, I would say. I don't really know. And then Slowing Toxin, probably almost the max duration. This gadget, even though it's been nerfed a lot, this gadget still provides a lot of value because you could slow them whenever you want, and you can slow multiple opponents. So you got to be careful with that. So probably like 27 seconds. Next up, we've got Leon. Clone Projector, probably every 10 seconds. Just because I don't want you to be able to spam this gadget, because it can be like a human tank. And then Lollipop Drop every 25 seconds. It's really good for team synergy. We've seen in the past this gadget make Leon very meta, so definitely that. Next up, we've got Sandy. Sleep Simulator, probably like every 12 seconds. This gadget's almost never used, but if this gadget has a lower duration, I could see some very cheesy Sandy strategies where you keep just using this gadget as much as possible. So, but I don't want to make it too low because then it could be very broken. Sweet Dreams, probably like 25 seconds. This is the main reason Sandy's really strong, because this gadget counters his counters, which is aggression. So probably make this one 25 seconds. Next up we have Amber. Fire starters, probably like every 20 seconds. This one could be cheesy because there's going to be a lot of oil on the field, and you can use it to benefit that first star power, but also it's just gives her the movement speed buff. So there's a lot of things you could do about this gadget. So 20 seconds. Dancing Flames, probably 25 seconds. This gadget's definitely the better one out of the two. It does a lot of damage, and it's just so brutal against aggression. So probably 25 seconds for that one. Next up we have Meg. Meg has two kind of just gadgets. Jolting Volts, I don't really feel the healing most of the time, but I would say like every 20 seconds. And then for Toolbox, like every 10 seconds. This gadget like is only good for taking a shot, but the way you play Meg right now is just to play aggressive and not really play passive because of the rework. So definitely make this one like every 10 seconds. Next up, you've got Surge. Surge's gadgets are so freaking annoying, man. I would like to see both of them almost be max duration. So, like, this one is better in, like, competitive play where you know it's going to be hard to get a level. So at least you can have this gadget to get the stage 2 and at least try and get that first level easier. But it also can give you stage 3 and stage 4 with a green button for 10 seconds. So I would say this one probably about every 25 seconds. And then Power Shield, max duration. Easily. This gadget is so annoying because even if you don't want to hit the Surge or try not to, you're going to hit Surge anyway. He's going to reload 2 ammo and then he's just going to kill you. So yeah, make it the max duration. That gadget makes me lose brain cells. Next up we've got Chester. Chester has two kind of just whatever gadgets. I don't really care. Spicy Dice, I guess. Let's play Let's Go Gambling more often. Honestly, I could see... Chester isn't the greatest in the meta right now, so I honestly would like to see both of them be the minimum duration, because then you can get a lot of RNG-based spam with Chester, and I feel like that would be fun. So I would like to see both of them be minimum 7 seconds. Next up, we got Cordelius. Both of his gadgets are pretty good. Replanting, though, is definitely the better one for a majority of the players. So I would probably make this one 20 seconds, just because the jump over the wall is very powerful at times. And then for Poison Mushroom, it is a 1 second Otis super, so that's very cheesy. So I would probably make it about every 18 seconds, because this gadget can confirm a kill almost every single time. Next up, we've got Kit, Cardboard Box, max duration. It's a freaking invisibility with a green button. Don't care what the hell you tell me. It needs to be max duration. It's stupid that you can spam that you can use a green button and go invisible. I hate that. And then Cheeseburger, it's really good with tanks. The healing is good. It's been nerfed a little bit, but it's still a really good gadget. So I would probably say every like 16 seconds. That way you can only get one use off of it when you're on somebody. But then if you jump back on them, you can use it pretty much immediately again. Draco, Uppercut. I've never seen anybody use this gadget just because it literally just knocks them up in the air. I don't really see it, so just make it 7 seconds. Last Stand, max duration, without a doubt. If you could spam it, because you're just going to use this gadget whenever you can. So it literally gives him invulnerability at 1 HP for 2 seconds. No, it needs to be the max duration, easily, without a doubt. And finally, we have Kenji, Dashy Dash. I've really never seen many people use this gadget, so probably like 10 seconds. And then for Homosaki healing, or Hosomaki, I said Homosaki. Oh, man. Hosomaki healing, like every 25 seconds. Almost even the max duration. The healing you can get from this gadget is so insane to me. Like, it just makes me want to lose brain cells. But yeah, this was a long video. So let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree, whatever. If you think one should be shorter, longer, whatever. I don't really know. This is just kind of my guess and my prediction, kind of. Or my suggestion, you could say. I don't really know, because this is a huge update. So I can't wait to see what Supercell has to come up with in terms of these gadgets. But thank you guys for watching this video. And I will see you in the next one.